So you can acquire this land 3107 and 31st Street, which is basically on the intersection of 31st Street and Astoria. It's a very popular area in Astoria, Queens, not far from. And this land is just under 21,000 square foot, the lot, and is zoned for C43. So the winning offer will get the land at an acquisition price of, and checking on LoopNet, a comparable market value for this is about 17 million. But of course, it comes with restrictions. You have to operate under HPD's parameters in order for you to keep that. Now, this opportunity also has a low-income housing tax credit that of about 12.1 million. And for those that are not familiar with tax credit, is so you can have a corporation provide 12.1 million for, say, a donation for a charity, a deduction. But in this case, they will get a dollar for dollar on their tax credit. And especially when we go back to the higher corporate rates, this will be a huge incentive for corporations. 21% corporate tax rate. And the big thing with affordable housing is while it's highly complicated, especially the finance side and the process, nearly all funding sources are from other people's money, so it's very lucrative. And in the future, you'll see the why the high IRRs that come from affordable. So what I want to propose is a 33.3 million development. It is for 123 residential rental units, 2 retail units, 1 community facility. In the community facility, I will house a non-for-profit that specializes in providing senior support services. I will fund this using the Senior Affordable Rental Apartments program and, of course, the low-income housing tax credits. Most of my units will be at the 50% AMI, but I have 37 studios set aside for the 30% AMI, which is the homeless. And I will have, for the subcontracting plan, I'll have favorability for minority and women-owned business for preference. So even though it's affordable housing and it seems that there isn't much risk, the actual risk exists where the market guidelines are very stringent. And one of the such guidelines is that 50% of the tenants have to be from around the area. For this particular case, it has to be from Community District 401. On the right is actually where I pulled the statistics from that are coming up. So in the area, you have about 215,000 people, and 40% are born. So you usually have correlation with foreign born and first generation. So the AMI should be below the 50% overall. And you'll be able to see here, right here, out of those 250, you have 75,000 that are about below the 50% AMI. You have about 23% of the residents that are at or close to meeting the eligibility for this affordable project. But our real target market is those that are already eligible, which is about 9%. And it'll quickly be absorbed. It has much housing stock since 1970. Most of it was built before. Now it's the lot just under 21,000 square foot. The FAR is a 4, but because we have a community facility, we get the 0.8 bonus. Putting all that together, we get about 100, just over 100,000 buildable. Taking into consideration all the setbacks and the building imprints and everything for the mechanicals, we get about a 75,000, just over 75,000 of net lease. And I will split this, as I mentioned, it's going to be 59 studios at 400 square feet and 64 one bedrooms at 550 square feet, the rest common area in the community facility. So this is more or less how it will look like. You see some of the setbacks taken into account at the top. It's a high-rise with sustainability features. The ground floor will have the retail community center. And of course, on the top part of that building right there will be a green roof in the main section of the building. The last 2 floors will be for common area and have some amenities, which I'll speak to it soon. Floor 2 to 10 are going to be the residential, and the first floor is going to be the waiting area, as well as the community facility and the retail. So this is how a lobby will look like. Floor 2 is all residential. It has a laundry room and the trash chute. This is the first common area, and this is the second. These are the amenities I will incorporate. They're not expensive amenities, but they are for lifestyle and social well-being. The location is phenomenal. It's not far from Steinway, as I mentioned. There's a plethora of cars there. The actual train station is on the block, and of course, there's multiple transportation other than the train that's on the block. And it's generally just a high traffic area. This particular is across the street from Starbucks, but it isn't far away from Steinway, where it has so much commerce. So for sources, the HCC bond that is supported at 6 million. This more or less is around at the moment about a 5.75% interest rate, amortized years. Then the second and third mortgage is 9.25 million, 6.7 million. It's about 1%, but about a 2.13 APR overall with all the cost to that. And I'm requesting an 8% developer fee to be competitive in the project, but typical norm is between 10 and 12. My total development cost is just over 33 million, which is about 438 per square foot. Hard cost about 324 and about $76 per square foot. As I mentioned, the developer fee, I'm asking 8%, which is a little over 2.8 million. And I underwritten this whole development budget based on the HP lines. But just for a point of reference, the New York City 2020 average for total development cost is about 362. But of course, I'm adding a few extra features for my development, as there's extra soft costs associated with capturing this business. So it's 100% senior affordable housing, but only 9% is eligible for the tax basis. The 9% exclusion includes the retail hard costs, the expenses to lease up, the administrative expenses to qualify for the finance, required reserves, as well as developer fee. The 1.1 million will go towards the construction, and the remaining 11 million will be paid annually over 9 years. So for the main risk, when I mentioned earlier about getting tenants, is that they have to qualify with very strict standards, because if you let it slide by, it's where you lose partial of your tax credit, as well as other penalties. So I have a 5-year cap, because in the next slide I will be presenting the two main options for exit, but I, of course, think that the short term is a much better one, and you'll see the numbers soon. But in this flow, you can see that the developer fee is paid by year 4. It follows all the SARA program guidelines for the, and of course the rents I collect are 50% AMI based on the units, the spread of the units I mentioned earlier in the programming. Of course, the SARA term should also gives you the operating expenses they have to put in, but the mainly most important part is that the cash flow exceeds the 1.15 debt service coverage ratio and the 1.05 income to expense ratio required. Now, you have two options. Well, you have more than two options, but these are the two options I want you to look at. One is the 5-year exit. A 5-year internal rate of 63.6% and equity multiple of 6.7. This is the case because you're not really putting your own cash. You're only ponying up your developer. Not only, but you're mostly ponying up your developer. And of course, I calculated this by the future cash flows. The net present value of the future cash flow is discounted at 5%. Now for the years, this is more like a wealth preservation strategy, like someone mentioned earlier, generational. So this is a 17.6% internal rate of return with a 19.1 equitable, and the assumption for this is the asset sold at 4% cap rate at market rents year 31. Because year 31 is you're able to you can do whatever you want with the property at that point. No more restrictions. So, any questions?
Thank you, Marco.